A father wanted over the premeditated and planned shooting murders of his two teenage children has been found dead. Police launched a massive manhunt for the man, 68, after a boy, 15, and girl, 13, were found dead in their home in West Pennant Hills, northwest Sydney. Early on Friday morning the body of the double murder suspect was discovered at his home in Normanhurst, about 6 kilometers away. Police, who described the killings as premeditated and planned, said the father was found at his residence with 2 handguns, both registered in his name. The distraught mother, 36, was treated for shock when she arrived at the scene after police were called to the home at 5:20 p.m. on Thursday. The bodies of the teenage victims have been removed from the house, which has been cordoned off during the forensic investigation. Acting Assistant Commissioner Brett McFadden addressed the media on Friday morning, and said police believe the weapons seized were used in the killings. This was a planned activity on the part of the 68-year-old male. Shortly thereafter he has attended the address in Normanhurst and taken his own life, he said. The 68-year-old male was the holder of a number of firearms. The 2 handguns located at the premises at Normanhurst were registered in his name. Mr. McFadden said police believe the man acquired the guns earlier this year, and said police were aware of the man, but he did not have an extensive history. Police said the mother and her children lived at the West Pennant Hills home, while the father lived at the home in Normanhurst. The 15-year-old boy was a student at Pennant Hills High School, where Education Department officials said staff were meeting to discuss dealing with the tragedy. They will have a staff meeting soon, an official told the Daily Telegraph. The woman's teenage children were shot dead in their bedrooms in what police described as a horrific incident. It's an absolutely horrific incident to unfold, Brett McFadden, acting regional commander of the Northwest Metropolitan Region, said. Officers said the shooting is being investigated as a domestic violence-related incident. The mother arrived at her Hull Road home after emergency services responded to reports of gunfire about 5:20 p.m. She was taken away from the scene shortly after being treated for severe shock. Police said the woman is being cared for by friends. Inspector Kevin McSweeney from NSW Ambulance said when paramedics arrived on scene they were confronted with an extremely distressing and stressful situation. We found 2 teenagers unfortunately deceased in their bedrooms and unfortunately at that time there was nothing we could do to help them, he said. Superintendent McFadden said the attack was a very harrowing experience for those initial responding emergency service providers. He said an investigation has now commenced into the deaths. We consider this to be very much a targeted incident. We do believe it could well be domestic violence related and our focus at the moment is on the investigation to locate that person of interest, Superintendent McFadden said. It is what can only be described as a tragic set of circumstances for the whole family. He added that support is being provided to family members. Detectives spent the night searching for a person of interest, believed to be the children's father, who was confirmed dead on Friday morning. It is unknown how many shots were fired during the fatal incident. More than a dozen residents from the Leafy neighborhood watched on from outside the police barrier as the operation unfolded, shocked by news of the tragic incident. John Howard, 82, who lives just meters from the scene told Daily Mail Australia, "It's a terrible thing that's happened, young kids, I have no words for it." The resident, who has lived on Hull Road more than 55 years, explained the area is quiet and quite friendly. There is a lot of new people who have moved in over the last 4 or 5 years, people coming from overseas living here, they seem like nice people, he said. Mr. Howard was inside watching TV when he heard helicopters above his home. Moments later it flashed up on his screen that there had been a shooting in West Pennant Hills. A short time later his daughter and granddaughter, who lived nearby, arrived at his home and said, "Are you okay? Have a look outside your front window." "I looked out the window and could see all of the flashing lights and people and cars, you name it," he said. He heard a noise about the time of the shooting and had thought it was to do with earth-moving works at a nearby housing development. Mr. Howard said in hindsight it may have been the incident as it happened. A woman with teenage children who lives nearby, who did not wish to be named, said, "I'm shocked and just very sad to see something like this has happened in this neighborhood. My children attend the local school. I didn't expect something like this to happen here," she said. Another resident, Paul, described the neighborhood as a family area. "It's a caring community," he said.